How's it going, and welcome back to JamesChats. Today I'm going to be going over how I stream my retro video games on Twitch, but before we get to that, I'd like to give a shout out to a charity I would encourage you all to support called I Need Diverse Games. It is an organization that helps to push for representation and diversity in the video games that we play, and that is a cause that I wholeheartedly support. So if you would like to learn more about what they do, I'll put a link to their website in the video description. I will also be putting a link to a Tiltify campaign where I am hoping to raise $1,000 for this cause. That's my goal. And if you'd like to contribute, feel free to visit that link and contribute whatever you can. Whether it's $1, $100, $1,000, go crazy. Now, without further ado, let's get to the video. I like streaming on Twitch, and I love streaming retro video games. PlayStation, N64, NES, you name it. I love older video games. But because they come from a technologically different time, they inherently present hurdles for folks like myself who want to stream them. Those hurdles and complications are the reason why I've decided to make a dedicated video, because there is a lot to be said. I will do my best to try to consolidate the information, so bear with me. So what makes streaming old video games so difficult? Well, put simply, they were designed for CRT televisions, which operate very differently than today's tech. The video output of most older consoles is either 240p or 480i, which most modern devices cannot properly interpret, and their cables are physically different than today's standards. HDMI wasn't even designed until 2002 and wasn't widely adopted until 2008. So you have to worry about converting that. Those are the main hurdles. So what do I do? Well, here's the TLDR version. My console output goes into an S-Video switcher, which itself has two outputs, one of which goes to the CRT television that I play on, the other one goes into my RetroTink 2X Pro. That has an HDMI output that goes into my Elgato HD60S, which of course allows my computer to interpret that footage in software. Now let's break that down. But before we do, I would like to know what your all-time favorite retro video game is, so let me know in the comments section. Now let's get into this. Starting with cables, and there is a ton of information on the different cables that can be used with retro consoles, but I'm gonna dumb it down a bit. When it comes to standard definition cables, you have from worst to best RF, composite, S-Video, and RGB SCART. Composite is extremely common and it looks fine on most CRT TVs, but S-Video is a very easy upgrade that actually adds a lot of quality. RGB SCART is even better than S-Video, but it is a much more involved process making that upgrade, so for me, S-Video was the perfect middle ground. Pretty easy upgrade for a considerable jump in quality. This is a very simple breakdown, and if you want to dive deeper into the world of retro gaming on modern displays, I highly recommend My Life in Gaming on YouTube. They have a massive series of videos dedicated solely to this subject, so if you really want to dive head first, I'd check them out. I'm just giving you a very brief rundown of what I've learned from them. Next, we have my switcher, and I specifically got this older Radio Shack version because it accepts S-Video, it has two outputs, and it is a powered switcher. S-Video, as I mentioned before, is a very easy upgrade from the much more common composite. The two outputs allow me to send one signal to my RetroTink 2X Pro line doubler and another signal to my beautiful 1987 Hitachi CRT television. Now, this isn't required, okay? If you want to just send the signal directly to your monitor and play on your monitor and avoid the whole CRT thing, you don't even need a switcher. All right, you just go directly into the RetroTink and call it a day. I personally feel like playing on a CRT is the best way to experience these retro games, so that's why I do it. Also, CRTs will have like zero input lag, zero latency. Even the most expensive upscalers and line doublers and whatnot will still introduce some level of input lag because you're playing on an LCD. So it's not mandatory. It's not mandatory. I choose to do it because that's the experience that I want. And with it being a powered switcher, there's less chance for any kind of signal degradation. The non-powered units can be something of a weak link. Moving on to the line doubler. Now this is another complicated area, so I wanted to give you all a comparison between three different options. A $10 composite upscaler, a $35 S-Video upscaler, and the $130 RetroTink 2X Pro. The cheapest option simply takes the composite input and stretches it to an HD format. It works, and it is what I actually used for quite a while due to budget constraints, but it doesn't look great. It also stretches the aspect ratio to 16:9, which then has to be corrected in software. That's a negative. Don't like that. The next step up does include an S-video input as well as other resolution options, so it does look considerably better if, of course, you are using S-video cables, but it still just stretches the input. It does, however, correctly display the aspect ratio in 4:3, although it does add some weird stuff going on the side. It still is much better than the previous option. And then we have the RetroTink, which is a line doubler. This is not an upscaler. Let's pause for a quick second there. They do still upscale, technically speaking, but they do it much better and differently. That's what I'm trying to say here. They work similarly, but differently. Hopefully that makes sense. You'll get it, okay? Unlike upscalers, which just stretch the image, a line doubler will actually look at the interlaced footage, which most old consoles will output, and then use interpolation to recreate and fill the missing lines of information and effectively output a 480p signal. That 480p signal is what most modern devices are easily able to recognize. Again, I would like to point folks in the direction of My Life in Gaming on YouTube if you want to learn a lot more about this device specifically. They and some other reviewers are the reason why I bought it. There's like so much to the science of upscalers versus line doublers, and if you really want to deep dive into that kind of information, My Life in Gaming is a fantastic channel. I mean, each of their videos is like a documentary. It's insane. I just wanted to give you all a general idea of how a line doubler works versus an upscaler. Instead of talking extensively about the technical specifications of these devices, I thought I would just show you all some footage that I captured through all three of these options. So check it out. So that's how they look compared to one another. As you can probably tell, the more money you spend, the better it's gonna look. If you can afford the RetroTink, I obviously recommend that over the other two. It is just a vastly superior product, but the S-Video upscaler can do a decent enough job, especially if you're using S-Video cables. Do not waste $10 on this thing. If you have to constrain your budget, get the $35 S-Video upscaler because it does do a decent enough job. It has its issues, but it is a lot better than this, and it allows you to much more easily explore the world of S-Video cables over composite cables. And then finally from there, the line doubler sends an HDMI signal out to my Elgato HD60S, which of course allows the computer to interpret that footage and send a signal over to OBS for streaming. So that's how I stream retro games. Hopefully it was informative and not too confusing. It is a surprisingly complicated topic, so I did my best to try to break it down in a way that made sense. There will be affiliate links to all the products that I mentioned in the video description, so if this video helped you make a decision on anything to buy, I encourage you to use those links because it supports the stream at no extra cost to you. So It's kind of like a win-win. And again, I would like to know what your favorite retro video game is. You can put a couple, don't be shy. Let me know in the comments section. Okay, that's gonna be it for today's video. Thank you all so much for watching. Feel free to like, comment, subscribe, do all that fun stuff, and I will see you all in the next video.